Okay, we're live now.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Bruce Clash. I am the Pennsylvania State Director of Fight Crime, Invest in Kids. We are a bipartisan, nonprofit, anti-crime organization comprised of almost 250 Pennsylvania district attorneys, police chiefs, and sheriffs. We protect public safety by promoting solutions that are shown to steer kids away from crime in the first place. So before we get into the content of our lead poisoning event and release of our new report, I want to make sure we introduce everyone on the call. So let me just turn quickly to everyone to just state your name and affiliation so we can identify. Let's start with Mr. Adams.
Good morning, John Adams. I am the District Attorney of Berks County, and it's a pleasure to be here and talking about this very important issue.
Thank you. Kathryn.
Hi, I'm Kathy Behm, and I'm the nurse supervisor and the program manager for the Community Prevention Partnerships Nurse Family Partnership Program.
Thank you. Jamal.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jamal Abodalo. I'm the Director of Community Development for the City of Reading, and it's a pleasure being with you here. The lead abatement program is a very important initiative for the mayor, but I'll be happy to join you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Wang.
Hi, I'm Karen Wang. I'm the Director of Pediatrics at Berks Community Health Center, and I'm thrilled to see some attention around this important public health issue.
Very good. And Mayor Moran.
There we go. I'm sorry. After a year and a half, we're still trying to get
No.
Good morning once again. It's truly an honor. I'm Eddie Moran, mayor of this amazing city of Reading, PA, and it's definitely a pleasure that I am here with you talking about this issue that is so important to our kids.
Thank you for joining us. Representative Guzman.
Good morning, everyone. I am Representative Manny Guzman. I represent the 127th Legislative District, which just so happens to be the majority of the city of Reading, where we're finding a huge percentage of lead poisoning within our pipes. So this is a timely conversation, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it.
Thank you for joining. Commissioner Barnhart.
Good morning, County Commissioner Kevin Barnhart. The train whistle's blowing in the background, so that's why I muted myself. But good morning, and very critical topic to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chad.
Chad, I think you're still muted.
I just didn't want Mayor Moran to be the only one that looked like they didn't know what they were. Chad Schlanger, Chief of Staff from State Rep Rozzi's office.
Thank you for joining us. And that's not Senator Schwank's office.
Hi, good morning. Bill Evans. I'm Senator Schwank's Chief of Staff, and thank you for convening this. In the Senate, I'll just note, in 2018, I guess it was, Senator Schwank was part of the task force on lead exposure, which was a legislative initiative, and she has a couple bills, and we introduced another one this year requiring lead testing at child daycare programs. So it's a very, very important topic. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Let's turn to Colleen.
Good morning. I'm Colleen McCauley from Public Citizens for Children and Youth. I direct health work, and in particular am helping to lead a statewide initiative on lead poisoning prevention, the Lead Free Promise Project.
Very good. Thank you. And Beth?
Hi, I'm Beth Dougherty. I work with Colleen at Public Citizens for Children and Youth, and I lead our lead poisoning prevention work in Delaware County.
All right, and I'll just acknowledge Danny Gross helping us with behind the scenes wizardry with Shelley Lyons communications firm in Harrisburg, and Mary Wassel, also our technical wizard with Parker Phillips helping us today. So thank you, both of you. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Again, Fight Crime, Invest in Kids is very pleased to be joined by District Attorney John Adams. He's been a longtime member with Fight Crime, Invest in Kids, almost since you were District Attorney, elected in 2007. And we're happy to release our new report today entitled Preventing Childhood Lead Exposure in Pennsylvania. Lead remediation can help prevent future crime. And Zoom does not do justice to video or imagery. This new report documents how lead exposure in childhood can lead to future learning disabilities, behavior issues, hyperactivity, and other problems with impulse control, which can unfortunately lead to juvenile and adult crime later on in life. And to help us release this report and raise attention to this important issue, we're really honored to be joined by a great panel of guests who have introduced themselves already. Speaking will be Dr. Kathryn Wang with the Berks County Community Health Center, Kathryn Behm, if I remember pronouncing that correctly, with the Berks County Nurse Family Partnership Program, and Jamal Abodalo, the Director of the Community Development Services for the City of Reading. And thank you to our esteemed community, local leaders, state and local officials for joining us here today. So just a few housekeeping items. First, we're joined by almost 20 almost 20 attendees now. We appreciate your attending in our virtual audience. We want to welcome members of the media as well. We'll be monitoring the chat box and question function. So if you have questions, please utilize the chat. We have people monitoring that. We'll try to answer as many as possible at the conclusion of the panel. And for members of the media, if you do ask a question, please identify yourselves and your affiliation. So now to the issue of the day, childhood lead poisoning. Perhaps many people think that this was an issue that ended in the 70s and 80s. However, it still remains a life-altering situation for far too many Pennsylvania children. And in fact, in 2019, Pennsylvania had the second highest number of children who tested positive for lead poisoning in the United States, the second highest number. As part of our report released today and panel discussion, we'll discuss these numbers and explain why childhood lead poisoning is an issue that concerns law enforcement from a public safety perspective. And one of the more important aspects of our conversation will be, what do we do about lead exposure, which is 100% preventable, 100% preventable, if we adequately invest in testing and remediation efforts that we know work to stop lead poisoning in its tracks. So again, I'm pleased to be joined by District Attorney John Adams, Berks County, to give us perspective on the report and explain the connection between future criminality and early childhood lead exposure. Thank you, Mr. Adams, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. This is an interesting topic that I've just become somewhat exposed to. And I believe that that as district attorney, we have to be proactive in identifying some of the underlying issues and conditions that bring one to become involved in criminal activity. We are always pushing for reforms and solutions to stop crime from occurring in the first place. And the fact that we now are, some studies are showing a connection between lead poisoning and a child's involvement and even adults' involvement in crime indicates that this is a very important issue, because whatever we can do to prevent crime is going to be helpful to the success of our community. A lot of the research has shown that young people will become involved in the criminal justice system, become involved with delinquency and crime, and some of that is as a result of a hidden threat that we are learning more about, and that is lead poisoning. Lead poisoning lurks between the surface and in many cases goes unnoticed, and can have a significant impact on a child's health and behavior. Basically, these studies are showing that it will affect a child's impulse control and their involvement with crime, both as a juvenile and adult. So I know that we probably have a solution out there to this problem, which we are learning about. And I think that it is incumbent upon those of us who are involved in this issue that we utilize our resources to combat this issue. And clearly, when we look at the city of Reading, we face poverty each and every day. And we also face a population where the housing stock of our community is old. It's clearly, we're not seeing a lot of new housing being built in the city of Reading. So we are relying on existing homes which were built many years ago. And so I think that based upon that, the exposure to lead is more potentially prevalent here in the city of Reading versus other communities which were built and most of the construction was well after lead was exposed as a problem. So I think it's incumbent upon the city to do as much as possible to combat this problem, which could affect the health and welfare of our youth and, quite frankly, the health and welfare of everyone who lives in the city. And I can't thank you enough for bringing this important issue to our attention. And I am certain that we can make an impact and make some changes which can affect this issue. We also know through this lead poisoning studies that a lot of it can affect the education. And we also know that most inmates who are admitted to Pennsylvania state prisons have less than a high school degree. So, you know, education is so important. And if this is lead poisoning and is an issue which causes a handicap in their education, we need to combat it. We need to address it immediately so that our community can be strong. And a strong community is a well-educated community. So, you know, I could go on and on about the costs of the criminal justice system, and there are many. And there are many solutions out there to prevent these costs from being incurred. And I'm grateful that you brought this issue to fruition. And I would like to see all of us take the appropriate steps to combat lead poisoning, which I think is probably more prevalent here in our community because of the age of the housing stock. And I think addressing it is imperative for all of us to commit to as we move on. Thank you.
Thank you. And you touched on a really interesting point about affecting the educational abilities of young children, which carries through to risk for not graduating from high school and others. I want to turn to Dr. Wang. This certainly is a perennial issue that you've been grappling with for your career, I would imagine. What's the physiology behind how lead exposure creates these impediments in children that affect them for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. Children, first of all, are at higher risk of lead exposure because their brains are still developing. So especially children under 6, when exposed to lead while their brain is actively in development and crucial connections are being made, makes them at higher risk to these exposures. Well, they're not good at any age. It's especially important in the forming brain. So also children tend to put their hands in their mouth and other objects in their mouth that are in their environment, and those may be contaminated with lead dust, and that increases their risk of exposure. So especially something as simple as a windowsill where the paint is chipping in an old home where the most recent paint may be lead free, but there are layers of paint that go back, many, many years to when lead was still in the paint, cause recurrent exposures to things like that. Lead poisons the brain and the neurologic system, altering the neurons or the brain cells themselves and the connections that are crucial to our ability to learn and remember things. So it gets into the brain and contaminates those cells and makes them not work as well. So studies show that the higher your lead exposure is, it can lead to a smaller brain overall. Like the brain just simply doesn't grow as well when you're exposed to lead. And especially a part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex has been shown in numerous studies to be smaller in response to lead exposure. That part of the brain especially helps us with complex decision making, with attention, and regulating our behavior. So differences in the size and the function of that part of the brain can account for the cognitive and behavioral problems that we see in many children that are lead exposed. So that's sort of how it happens.
Yeah. So children are just wired to ingest and be exposed to it the way they normal human development. All the more imperative why we've got to get it out of their environments in the first place. So thank you for that understanding. Let's turn to Kathryn Behm. She's the registered nurse and supervisor with the Berks County Nurse Family Partnership Program, and you've been a home visitor yourself. You've worked with families for your entire career in different capacities. What have you seen or experienced of families that are dealing with this tragic problem?
Well, Nurse Family Partnership itself, we can serve 254 families here in Berks County. And we have nurse home visitors who actually go into the homes and speak to parents about these issues. Specifically, we have conversations around lead and the importance of having your child tested for lead. Because one of our main goals is to have a parent have increased knowledge about their child, how they develop, and also about how they stay healthy. And especially with an issue like lead, where a child can prevent, any kind of further damage by purely having a blood test. And if they notice that it's negative, then there's no intervention needed. But if you have a child who has a blood test and it's positive for lead, there are things that can be done to help that child to rid their body of lead and to prevent further damage from the absorption of the lead. So just as Dr. Wang said, we're working with families in the home. Our families that we work with have children. We start with moms in pregnancy and we work with moms till that child is 2 years of age. So we are supporting that mom in educating her to know that she should, first of all, have that lead test done. If you're in a home with old paint and you have somebody, your partner or somebody in the home who decides to repaint, have the child out of the home when that occurs. Because if you're removing paint from somewhere, you're creating dust. Dust can be ingested and dust can be breathed in. If you have a home that you have no control over. If you have a landlord, we support that mom in talking to that landlord about how to mitigate that home, how to, remove that paint, that it's not affecting their children or not affecting what goes on in the home, how to clean up after the paint has been removed so that that child isn't touching dust-coated toys or getting it on their hands and putting it in their mouth. And also, we talk to parents about how children are very mouthy and they will put just about anything in their mouth. They'll eat paint chips because they don't know what that is. It's just something, they're not eating it, but they're mouthy and they're just putting things in their mouth and then swallowing it and ingesting it. So, we have different facilitators or guidelines that help moms to see what are the risk factors of lead and what are the effects of high lead levels, on their children. We talk about vinyl flooring is also another source of lead poisoning to families. Brass keys, you have an old key in the home and you think, oh, it's big enough, let the baby chew on it. Not a good idea. Or brass doorknobs or things like that. And then we talk about the symptoms of lead poisoning, just a child having a poor appetite or being clumsy or confused or, having a tummy ache or vomiting. Those can all be symptoms of that. A very tired baby, a grouchy baby, maybe more so you start to see some changes from that normal childhood behavior that you saw before. And now all of a sudden, here this baby is acting different. So I believe they test, and Dr. Wang would know this, around 1 year of age is when they actually do the blood test on the babies. And so, also the importance of, what are the foods that children should be eating right now, just to even prevent the absorption of lead, that whole milk, 2% milk, iron fortified cereals like oatmeal, or iron foods that are high in iron, like lean meats, turkey, fish, cooked dried beans will all help to keep that from being absorbed. Oranges, cantaloupe, strawberries, there's green peppers, tomatoes, broccoli, yogurt, cheese, all those healthy foods are going to help those babies to not absorb the lead the way that they would. So the importance of healthy eating and the idea that, no level of lead in a child's blood is acceptable, none whatsoever. It's not like a little bit of lead isn't going to hurt you. There should be no lead in a child's bloodstream. So those are some of the things that we talk about in the homes on a regular basis, actually starting in pregnancy and then throughout that child's second year of life in the hopes of preventing this from happening.
Very important discussions and helping prevent it in the first place. Dr. Wang, she mentioned testing. What do pediatricians recommend, or what are you seeing in this area?
Yeah, for kids, like the children in Berks County who are at risk, generally by where they live in older housing, we recommend screening all children by the time they turn 1, sometime between 9 months and 1 year of age when they start moving around. And then again by age 2, so about a year later as a follow-up. And continued testing is recommended for kids who have high levels or who are at risk. Kids who may continue to put lots of objects in their mouth, like autistic children or things like that. So routine testing is recommended for all kids. Children who are covered by Medicaid, that's part of the recommendations that their insurance covers that testing. But many children are not tested. We know that we don't even see the whole problem with lead poisoning. Because not all children are tested. And as with many things, the pandemic has made this more challenging. We know that many families have been scared to come in to health facilities to have their children get regular checkups. And getting a lead test generally requires a separate trip to the lab for the most accurate kinds of testing. And they're also reluctant to take their child, even if they come to me for a checkup or one of my colleagues, that they might not want to sit in a lab waiting room where they're fearing exposure to COVID. And so the testing has been greatly reduced during the time of the pandemic, at the very same time that children are spending much more time in their homes where they may be increasingly exposed to lead. If you run a licensed daycare, it can't have lead exposures to the children. When children leave the home and go to public schools, those environments have been tested for lead poisoning, but when kids are spending many, many more hours and weeks and months at home and not leaving the home with less safe things to do. I've seen families who have barely left their homes in 15 months. They're afraid to take their children outside to play in the park for a variety of reasons. And so these young children kind of in these potentially high lead environments for a long period of time and not seeking medical care has made this problem even worse at this time.
Yeah, so you're really pointing to the need for greater testing rates, which are quite low in Pennsylvania, as our report documents. I want to turn to our housing expert here. Jamal Abodalo is the Director of Community Development Services for the City of Reading. Mr. Adams mentioned the older housing stock in Reading, which is not unique to Reading by any stretch, but you've got a unique set of circumstances there. Can you tell us about the housing stock and what's been done, how you look at exposure and how it's being combated and the need for more?
Certainly, I'll be more than happy to do so. But before we do that, I just would like to let you know that sitting next to the mayor is our managing director, Mr. Abe Ambrose, in there. And just wanted to introduce him because he's been a boost of energy for us to accomplish what the mayor has asked us to do by Friday, right, Mr. Mayor? So at any rate, as Mr. Adams indicated, the City of Reading stock of housing is about 33,000 units in there, and it varies between single families, detached, multi-units, and some of them are the commercials. The majority of these units were built before 1970. About 80% of them were built in that time. Actually, the highest ebb, as our statistics would show, was in fact between the 1940s and into the early 1960s at that time. And basically, that's what happened with the lead paint. The industry was based on that type of paint, and as a result of that, all the houses were actually painted with lead-based paint, and unfortunately continues to. To the extent that the City of Reading through the years actually became the poorest city within our nations, that unfortunately attracted a lot of families to rental, and as such, there has not been any programs to that will help with that. And that was one of the very essential initiatives that Mayor Moran has actually started back in January of last year in 2020, and it was providing a safe environment for every family within the city. And we have tried back in 2020 to apply for the HUD grant itself. Unfortunately, though, our effort was very, very robust in there, we were not successful in getting that, but that did not actually get us off the saddle there. We continue to do and build a more stronger team in order to do so. So in the interim, while we are awaiting to hear something from the Department of Health for the state of Pennsylvania, what we have done in the past few months itself is actually all the housings, the rehab housing that are actually conducted through Habitat for Humanity or NHS, Neighborhood Housing Services, we ask for a lead reduction or a lead certification in which it shows that the house is lead free. We ask for samples for the soil in the front yard and the backyard. We ask for samples of the paint itself. In fact, sometimes we insist on seeing that the paint completely scrapes off entirely, so that they can apply new paint to that. And in addition to that, the carpeting must be replaced. So we will not accept it. So these are some of the initiatives that we have. But the Habitat for Humanity program is just the beginning of that. What we have also started is that we created in our community development a group that specializes in the lead reductions programs. And we are actually getting 2 of our employees at this point certified in understanding and how to build a team for that, so that we will be able to assess how we can retain good contractors, and we will be able to actually be good certified inspectors for the lead abatement program, and certifications will extend beyond that. That, coupled with the fact that we are working at this point with the Department of Health to receive an award for as a subrecipient to this program, that program hopefully will kick off into a higher gear once we receive a confirmation from the state indicating that yes, we are considered as subrecipient, and we will launch that program in effect immediately thereafter. The coalition that we've had last year, we are hoping that we will be able to build the same coalition this time, and be able to focus on the fact that there are so many homes we need to address, and that will happen through different programs. I mentioned 2 of them, which is the Habitat for Humanity. There is another program that we are going to go through, and that is basically through the Reading Redevelopment Authority, taking blighted properties and rehabbing them and bring them back online so that we will rehab them entirely. And the third program is that we are trying to develop actually a very good working relationship with some of our landlords, so that we will be able to establish a way in which we can move some of these families, relocate them, while we'll be able to abate or refurbish some of these properties. So there are several programs that are right now are actually being considered and evaluated from our end. I just want to assure you that the city of Reading are fully aware of the fact that we have a problem on our hand, but we are not sitting tight about it. We're not standing still. We have been working on this since the mayor took position in January of last year. We recognize how severe is the problem, and one of the mayor's missions saying that it is keeping safe streets and safe children. We understand that by having a lead-free environment will give our children a very good environment for which they will be able to thrive and improve on their future. Their future will expand to that, because as you've heard from the experts, some of the difficulties that underprivileged children would have while they are actually being lead poisoned. Unfortunately, they will not do very well in school, and as such, they will drift into a directions that is not exactly a desirable one. By creating a safe environment in the streets as well as in the houses in there, our administration is looking into developing a program through which our students will actually prosper and will grow to be a better city altogether.
And Jamal, you make the the point that this crisis impacts children of color disproportionately because they're more likely to live in the older housing. In fact, in Pennsylvania, lead poisoning occurs in Black children at nearly 5 times the rate of white children, as our report says, and in Hispanic children, twice the rate of white children. So it's a disproportionate problem just by who lives in the house. What Jamal, are you finding is that the biggest obstacles? I mean, obviously, certainly funding is one you put up there to doing more. How would you answer that?
Well, definitely the biggest obstacle is funding at this point, and that's why we are seeking a 2-pronged approach, and that is basically to develop a program through the state for being a subrecipient of their program, or a lead hazard reduction program, but at the same time looking to actually apply when the grant is open for the HUD federal program and see this. I believe we are at this point establish a team, and this team is very enthused about learning about and getting all the certifications. some of the challenges that we are going to see, but we have not gotten to that point yet, and that is finding the certified workers, the certified contractors to do the work, because this is not a job that can be done by a handyman. You need the right individuals who are certified and fully aware of what could happen, and as such, that probably will be our next challenge. We are very fortunate that we have established a very good working relationship with our sister city, Lancaster, and they are guiding us through this. And in addition to actually we're receiving a lot of guidance from HUD and EPA in order to say, okay, we know that you don't have a lot of knowledge in this program, but here's our experience. And we are really, to that extent, very fortunate. They see that we are enthused about establishing a very successful program, and as a result of that, excuse me, we're working with several entities to make sure that the program is going to be successful.
Great, thank you. And I'll ask Steve now to post in the chat the link to our report. Again, citing the research that really connects lead exposure to crime, and one study that the risk of being arrested for a violent crime increased dramatically for every 5 micrograms per deciliter increase of lead level in blood. The likelihood of being arrested for a violent crime as a young adult increased by almost half. So this is a problem, as we've said, that is 100% preventable if we invest adequately, not only in the testing, as Dr. Wang has said, but also in the remediation efforts that Mr. Abodalo and others they need more resources to do it. We know what needs to be done. We know how to do it. We have to have the resources and the will to solve this problem. So we're really pleased to be joined by a host of other elected officials. Before we turn to questions, I just wanted to open it really briefly, and if any of our elected officials wanted to make any comments, no requirement. If I just wanted further discussion, if folks wanted to add anything from our other panelists, from your perspectives.
Or staff members representing elected officials that joined us.
If not, that's fine. That's fine. We appreciate your interest. We need you. You are part of the solution here to helping find the resources, dedicate them to solving this 100% preventable problem. So I see the link's been posted.
Yes.
Let's turn to
Bruce. There's a question, I believe, in the audience there from Lisa Shield about how much the city receives as a sub-recipient from the Department of Health. And the answer to that, when we receive the funds, it will be in 2 folds. The very first part of it, which is the major part, and that is for the lead hazard reduction program. We will receive approximately $12,500 for this. There is another component for healthy houses, and that is about $2,500. So you can say about $15,000 per dwelling. That's approximately what we have. Obviously, all of these numbers will be confirmed once we enter into an agreement with the Department of Health, but this is what we were informed.
That's about what it costs to do one house. Yeah.
Yes. And in that, you need to relocate the family to another place, find out what's entailed of scrubbing all the paints, the windows, and all these things, replacing the carpets, sampling the soil outside to see if there's any contaminations coming there. So $15,000 can be used very, very quickly, and it might be on the lower part of it, and there probably a higher dollar value will be required. But again, it's a case-by-case situation, and we'll make the best out of it ourselves.
And as the report notes, that we get a return on that money in terms of lost future wages because the child is more productive, has been had more success in
Yes.
school, we have less healthcare costs, Medicaid expenditures to deal with learning disabilities and special education in our K-12 system. So there's a significant return to that money that dramatically changes the trajectory or prevents this from happening in the first place. So, Steve, are there other questions we should turn to in our remaining time?
Sure. I think Jamal hit on this from Aaron Blair. Are there resources to support families when they need remediation and cannot afford alternative housing and do not have friends or families to stay with? You mentioned the overall pot of money and your efforts with in partnership with landlords to come up with a system there. Do you have any other further information in answer to that question, Jamal?
Definitely, Steve. For instance, the last year when we applied, one of our coalition partners was actually the DoubleTree Hotel, and they offered that the families can be relocated for a limited part of time to be in there. So there are a lot of entities who are actually very much interested to be engaged in abating the lead hazards within the city, and they will come in and help us and partner with us as we get into this. So the very first one, I would say that the hotels, the DoubleTree Hotel, we are looking for, and again, depending on the at this point in time, with the realizing how challenging the real estate market, we would not be able to find any available clean houses to relocate, but we will reach out to some of our landlords to see if there are any properties are coming in online to help with that.
Great, thank you. I see some people utilizing the raise hand function here, so I'll call. I think they appear in order there.
Commissioner Barnhart is.
Yes, thank you. I have to get off in a few minutes, so I wanted to just be critically aware that the American Rescue money that's coming to the county, we're receiving $82 million. The city's receiving, I think, somewhere in the 60-some million dollar. And this money needs to be expended by December 31st of 2024. One of the specific allowable expenses is for certain populations and geographies that identifying these disproportionately impacted communities, recipients should be able to support their determination of how the pandemic disproportionately impacted the population. Addressing eligible services, remediation of lead paint or other lead hazards, and community violence intervention programs. Bingo, there it is. I think we need to find a way to work together, city and the county, to expend this federal money that's coming into Reading and Berks County for remediation of lead paint and other lead hazards and community violence intervention programs, which we've all discussed here this morning. And I do have in my possession, and I know the mayor and Abe Ambrose has, a proposal through Habitat for Humanity, which Jamal was highlighting. They have a lead renovation, removal, and abatement project that they'd like to share with the community and see if they can be a community partner in renovation, removal, and abatement of lead. So I think we have the tools here. I think we now have the funding coming due. We received half of our money about 2 weeks ago. So I think now is the time to get on this, because I don't think there's an excuse that we don't have the money. I think we can definitely earmark sufficient amount of city and county dollars to remediate this lead issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, you had others that?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. And I'll just note, the Commissioner raises a good point. And from the advocacy community, we are also pursuing American Rescue funds at the state level that could possibly be the discretionary pot that could be routed to these types of efforts as well. So I do think there is a point in time opportunity here with American Rescue funds. But with that said, they are a point in time resource. and the lead problem will continue on. So I think, I think we have to capitalize on that opportunity, but also be looking to ongoing resources to remediate those risks as well. I see that staff from Senator Muth's office has their hand raised. Is it Nicola? Am I saying that right? Oh, she disappeared.
Nope, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. You moved in my screen. I apologize.
Yep, sorry about that. Thank you. Yes, Nicola, but I go by Nikki, but that's fine. My question is, and you may have covered this because I was a little late to this meeting because I was in another one, but is the concentration of the remediation strictly for the city of Reading, or is it all encompassing for Berks County for the lead abatement programs?
Jamal could probably only speak to the city, right?
Of course.
I mean, Nikki, we have, you've heard from the city and you've heard from Commissioner Bernhardt as well. And I applaud him for his enthusiasm of utilizing all the tools to help us. The city will focus on the city properties that program that we have, but I'm quite confident that Commissioner Bernhardt will, as he shared with us, that they will be utilizing some of the $80 million. And I don't want to speak on behalf of the county, but probably that will go towards that.
Yeah, and we'll be utilizing our county redevelopment authority to work with that.
Are there specific boroughs or areas in Berks County that you feel are going to need to be targeted for this abatement program outside the city?
Be primarily in the older boroughs, yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I would just note that we have posted for members of the media that are with us, we have posted the press release in the chat. We had to convert it to a link, but if you're having difficulty accessing that, please reach out or tell us so, and we can email that directly to you. I also wanted to just acknowledge Lisa from the Reading Eagle and a few others reached out ahead of time with some questions. And thank you for doing that. It afforded us the opportunity to put together some detailed responses to those questions. So we will circle back with you offline and provide answers to those questions that you submitted before the forum. I see Kathryn has her hand up. I'll throw it to her.
Yeah, I just have a question. Because we do serve families in the community, once the money becomes available for remediation, say we have a child that we've discovered now has a lead level that's having to be treated, and we think that this family should have their home, taken care of. How would that money, once it's available, how would we get our families in contact or involved in the remediation of their homes?
I'll start with that, Kathy. That's a very good question. And actually, it is one of the tools that we are going to utilize. So our initial thinking about it is that we were going to rely on available data for us and be able to reach out to daycare facilities in order to find out if we have more information. But if you do have this information, please feel free to contact me. We are trying to build a list as we go with that. And so in the beginning, the process is going to be a little bit more slower as we are moving through the learning curve and trying to learn more about how we handle this program itself. However, I'll make my contacts available to everyone in there, and feel free to send me this information, and I'll be more than happy to include you with our bi-weekly meetings with EPA at this point in time, to actually, as we are preparing for the grant application that's going to be open up very soon.
Thank you, Jamal. The other thing I'll mention here as we wait and see if any additional questions come in, Fight Crime, Invest in Kids, as Bruce said, is actually a partner in a developing statewide campaign that is happening across the Commonwealth. It actually launches in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks from now, it's going to be called the Lead-Free Promise Project, and we're actually joined by some coalition partners. Colleen and Beth from Public Citizens for Children and Youth, who are partners in this overall effort. It's going to be a campaign to elevate this issue, just as we're doing here this morning, across the state, to build the will to both, take the opportunities we have at hand to eliminate this poisoning risk, as well as look ahead to the future and know that we need ongoing resources to combat this risk to our children. The one thing that this campaign will be doing is launching a really interactive website inclusive with local fact sheets for each of Pennsylvania's 67 counties. And in the link that we posted in the chat there that gives access to the Fight Crime report, we also posted the Berks County fact sheet on toxic lead exposure. And I'll just say, I'll read you the highlights here. It is quite staggering that Berks County does have the third highest number of children poisoned in Pennsylvania at a county level. That's around 500 children every year, enough to fill 27 preschool classrooms. Speaking to what Dr. Wang spoke about in terms of we're only testing 19% of children. And to put this into a little bit of perspective on the number of children that are testing, that are poisoned, the rate in Berks County is actually 3 times higher than the children that were poisoned in Flint, Michigan at the height of their water catastrophe, I guess I would phrase it as. So, all of this yields to this important conversation. And, as Bruce acknowledged earlier, unfortunately, this is disproportionately affecting low income and communities of color. And certainly in the city of Reading itself, we find that children, that Black and Hispanic children Black children are 2 times more likely to be poisoned than white children, and Hispanic children 3.5 times more likely in the county in Berks County in the city of Reading. So this is a huge problem. Are there any, Bruce, I'll throw it back to you. I don't know if there's any closing comments. I want to be cognizant of people's time.
Yep, we do need to. No, I was going to mention the Lead-Free Promise Project, and we're just grateful for all of the officials joined us today. Your interest in this issue, you're going to be a part of the solution with us and helping find the resources that we need to end this scourge in Reading and Berks County and across Pennsylvania. So I don't have anything else. We'll let people go, and thank you all so much for your time, lending your perspectives and your work on this issue, and look forward to continue working with you in the future. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.